What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to examine Iron Fist issue 15. This issue is written by Chris Claremont with penciling by John Byrne, inking by Dan Green, lettering by Annette Kowecki, coloring by Bruce Patterson, and edited by Archie Goodwin. This is the final issue of the Bronze Age Iron Fist series. This is collected in the Iron Fist Epic Collection. I did a review on that some months ago. This is not the end of Danny Rand's story as far as Chris Claremont and John Byrne were concerned. They later picked up a couple of the lingering subplots from the last few issues of this series in issues of Marvel Team Up that followed this. But this issue, I am examining it here in my series of videos where I examine issues of the X-Men because the X-Men appear in this issue. We start with Danny Rand stopping an armed car robbery, and then he realizes this is no normal armed car robbery. This was specifically scheduled to try and lure me here. And then he is attacked by the mystery man who attacked him in the flashback sequence in the previous issue. And I'll go ahead and say this is Davos, who knew Danny's father at Kunlun. And Davos is able to take part of Danny's power. He kind of has part of the dragon brand that Danny has on his chest is now emblazoned on his chest, part of it. And so this is the beginnings of the character, the Steel Serpent, who, like I said, we had a little bit of this in the previous issue, and then we'll get a little bit more of this in a couple of issues of Marvel Team Up on down the road. But then Danny goes to Misty Knight and Jean Grey's apartment. He wants to talk to Misty, but as soon as he gets there, he realizes, oh wait, Misty is in the Caribbean on a secret assignment, so I can't talk to her. And then we get a couple of pages of Misty in the Caribbean talking to her superiors, accepting this deep cover assignment. We find out she is working with Bushmaster, who you probably know from Luke Cage Season 2. But we also see D.A. Tower, who is in the Daredevil Netflix series, and we see Scarf, who was also in Luke Cage. I think Lieutenant Scarf, he's a police officer, and he was introduced in this series, and I had forgotten just how many of the fairly important recurring characters in the Netflix universe appeared in this series. But anyway, Misty accepts the mission, but she's clearly not happy about it. We see her making out with Bushmaster, and a single tear rolls down her face because she is in love with Danny at this point, although both her and Danny are kind of on the outs with each other. Then we cut back to New York City, and Wolverine is whining about how Jean Grey is in love with Scott Summers instead of him, and then he sees somebody sneaking into Jean and Misty's apartment. It's Iron Fist, and then Wolverine busts in, and I just want to say, I have no idea when this issue is supposed to take place, because the last issue of the X-Men that we read, which I think was 106, the X-Men had just gone through a Stargate that was going to take them on a couple of issues of teaming up and fighting the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, like on the other side of the universe. And Misty Knight was right there with Professor Xavier when the X-Men went through that Stargate. And then we go here, this issue is the next one that's released. Well, there was that issue where Professor Xavier had a flashback where the X-Men fought an evil version of himself, but this issue has a release date that comes after that issue, and now we're being told Misty Knight is in the Caribbean and the X-Men are back, and Wolverine is wearing a costume of Fang from the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. Spoilers for the next few issues of X-Men, but when the X-Men do get back to Earth in the X-Men series, Wolverine is wearing this costume. But as soon as they get back to Earth, the issue where they come back, Wolverine immediately says, I need to get out of this costume. So I don't know if this was a situation where John Byrne said, I really like that costume that Dave Cockrum has Wolverine wearing in this art for the X-Men comic that's coming out, so I'm going to have Wolverine wear this costume, and then Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum maybe didn't know about that, and then they said, no, Wolverine's going back to his old costume. I really have no idea, but it's impossible to place the events of this issue within the timeline of the X-Men issues. In the X-Men, Misty Knight has been hanging out with Jean Grey frequently. In this series, Misty Knight is in the Caribbean, has been for a little while, long enough to establish her role as a spy in Bushmaster's organization, and then Wolverine is wearing this costume here that he does not wear for more than 30 seconds when he's on Earth in the X-Men series. So your guess is as good as mine when this takes place. I know that issue of X-Men where Professor X has the flashback where they fought his evil self. That was a very last-minute fill-in issue. They basically did that because Dave Cockrum wasn't quite finished with the penciling on the next issue. So in theory, the X-Men book should have been one issue ahead of where it currently is in this point in time, but that would still place this issue of Iron Fist before the X-Men returning from space, because they are in space for at least 2 issues, I want to say. Maybe 3, I don't think so, but maybe. But they're in space longer than 1 issue, and so even if we didn't have that fill-in issue, even if we moved all of the other X-Men issues up 1 month, this issue of Iron Fist, where Iron Fist fights the X-Men, that would still happen before the X-Men get back from space. So this is a weird thing. It's pretty much impossible to place where this takes place. In the next few years, when you get more X-Men books, like New Mutants and X-Factor, and specifically miniseries, I feel like Claremont does a better job of making the miniseries or making these other books fit with what's going on with the X-Men. For example, during the Frank Miller, Chris Claremont Wolverine miniseries, Wolverine is not in the X-Men book at that time. During the Kitty Pryde Wolverine miniseries, Kitty and Wolverine are not in the X-Men at that time. So this is before that. I don't know if the editors just didn't care, or if Claremont and Byrne didn't care. I know Claremont has said before that he will get like 5 or 6 issues ahead in writing scripts, so it's possible that he wrote a whole bunch of Iron Fist and then wasn't really thinking about where that would be intersecting with X-Men, and he was writing them at different rates. That could be, but I don't know. But anyway, Wolverine busts into Jean and Misty's apartment and instantly says, "I'm going to kill this guy." And then Iron Fist is able to knock Wolverine out the window. And if you're thinking like, "Oh, brother, another hero versus hero fight," there's some kind of wacky misunderstanding. This one is okay. At this time, Jim Shooter, actually, I don't even know if Jim Shooter, I don't think he was even involved with the creation of this stuff yet. But I know that just, half a year later, Jim Shooter was insisting that Wolverine be portrayed as someone who, at the drop of a hat, could kill you for no reason. But at the same time, he's not allowed to kill anyone because he's a child superhero, but he could kill anyone. Jim Shooter wanted that sense of danger to be there. And even though, like I said, Jim Shooter was not involved with this issue, you can still see some of that in this early version of Wolverine. He comes in and he thinks that this guy is a danger to Jean Grey, and he says, "You can't mess with my girl." And then Iron Fist says, "Well, I thought that Jean Grey was with Scott Summers. I don't know what's going on here." And then he thinks, but if he means Misty, and so Iron Fist is upset, Wolverine is upset. Iron Fist kicks Wolverine out the window, and then Colossus and Nightcrawler see Wolverine falling. Nightcrawler is not using the image inducer that we have seen in the very early issues of the X-Men. He says, "This is who I am. I don't want to pretend to be somebody else," and that's a really good message. I have no idea if he goes back to using the image inducer. I know there are other issues where he uses it, but I don't know about, like, the X-Men are going into town and Nightcrawler decides to use the image inducer. I don't know about that. I know it does show up again later, but I don't know if this is the beginning of him saying, "No, this is who I am, I'm not going to use the image inducer." But then Nightcrawler catches Wolverine from falling, and then Wolverine tells Colossus there's a burglar up in Jean and Misty's apartment. "I want you to throw me back up there." So Colossus does, and then Nightcrawler says, "You idiot, Colossus, for all we know, that's the mailman. It could have been the mailman that threw Wolverine out the window. Neither Rain, nor Snore, nor Wolverine, it could have been the mailman." That really made me laugh when I was reading this. But then Nightcrawler goes up there, and Iron Fist, of course, thinks that he is still being attacked, so then he attacks Nightcrawler, and then Colossus comes in, and at this point, at one point, Iron Fist is incapable of summoning the Iron Fist because of what Davos did to him him at the beginning of the issue. He's unable to use the Iron Fist, but then later when Colossus comes in, he's able to really focus, and he's finally able to use the Iron Fist. He knocks Colossus out the wall. At one point, when he's fighting Wolverine, he says, this guy kind of reminds me of Sabretooth, who I fought last issue. So this shows that even this early, like 1 month after the introduction of Sabretooth, that Claremont and Byrne were toying with the idea that there is a connection between Sabretooth and Wolverine. Their idea at the time was that Sabretooth was Wolverine's father. That idea never really played out in any of the comics, but you can see that there is something here that they are at least trying to put an idea into the minds of fans. And then Storm, she comes in and she's talking about how it's going to be really nice for the X-Men to just hang out and not be fighting Sentinels or whatever and get to know each other a little bit. And then she walks in and Colossus accidentally knocks the bowl of potato salad on her, and then we see Banshee and Maury McTaggart are outside talking about possibly moving forward with the next step in their relationship, which is weird because we haven't really seen them in a relationship yet. We have seen that Banshee kind of likes her, but we haven't really seen them spend much, if any, time together before this issue. So this is once again something we will see a little bit more of this when the X-Men get back from Earth after tangling with the Shi'ar, but we haven't seen much of any of it in the X-Men book before now. So this is another weird little continuity thing, but then there's a crazy thunderstorm going on near Jean and Misty's apartment, so Banshee goes up and he sees this guy fighting the X-Men, so he grabs him and then he like flies a circle around the apartment and he thinks that Danny is unconscious. I don't know why. I guess if you are screaming really loud, you could make someone pass out, but for some reason it doesn't work on Danny, and then Danny is able to get the better of Banshee, and then the fight is continuing, and then finally Jean and Scott come in, and Jean kind of separates everyone, and Wolverine says, well, this guy was in your apartment, and Jean says, yeah, this is Misty Knight's best friend. And then Cyclops says, look, Wolverine's an idiot, I understand that, but Storm, how did you fall for this? And Storm basically says, oopsie, I made a mistake. And then the landlord is upset at Jean, and he says he's going to kick her out because in issue 105 of X-Men, I think, that was where Firelord, the former Herald of Galactus, he came and attacked Jean's apartment, and Maury McTaggart at one point in this issue was saying the landlord was really mad about that, so he's probably going to be even more upset about this. And then the landlord says that he answers to the Rand Meacham Corporation, and they have agreed to kick Jean out, and then Danny comes up and says, well, actually, I am Danny Rand, so Jean is not kicked out. And incidentally, I have no idea what the actual business of Rand Meacham is. I have read the Bronze Age Iron Fist stuff, I've read the Fraction Brubaker stuff, I've read a little bit of the late 90s, early 2000 Iron Fist appearances. I have no idea what the Rand Meacham Corporation is about. I know in the Netflix series at one point they were selling medicine, but here they have real estate, and I know in the Fraction Brubaker run, Hydra was trying to get a hold of Rand Meacham. They had kidnapped Danny's lawyer friend, what's his name, Jaron Hogarth. They had kidnapped him, and I have no idea if you have people who are just doing real estate, why Hydra would want to get involved with that, but it could be that Rand Meacham just has their fingers in a lot of different pies. I would buy that, and let's be honest, the business side of Rand Meacham is not something I'm super interested in. I was just kind of, thought it was a little funny, well, we need something to tie up this, the landlord is going to be really upset, we need something to explain how the landlord doesn't kick Jean out of the apartment, so okay, Danny saves the day. I could have just as easily bought Danny buys the entire apartment complex. I was actually thinking that was where it was going to go. And then that's it. This does not feel like an end of the series issue, specifically because we have some lingering subplots. Who hired Sabretooth? Who is this guy who took part of Danny's powers? Some of that will get resolved in issues of Marvel Team Up, the Davos thing, and then Misty Knight will come back in those issues. But like, who hired Sabretooth? We never find out who hired Sabretooth. So this really feels like a very abrupt end to the series. I am curious when Claremont and Byrne found out this series was going to end, if they knew it was going to end with this issue, and then they decided, okay, let's do some of this stuff in Marvel Team Up. I'm not really sure. But this issue does a pretty good job of keeping me interested in turning the page to find out what happens next, considering how very little is actually happening in this issue. The entire issue is there's a misunderstanding between Iron Fist and the X-Men, and they fight for an entire issue. We do get a little bit with Davos, we get a couple of pages with Misty Knight in the Caribbean, but for the most part, this is Iron Fist and the X-Men fighting a pointless fight. And you would think that would get old pretty quickly, but no, it doesn't, because with the amount of X-Men there are, Iron Fist is able to, believably, I think, hold his own. If they were all coming at him all at once, that would be a different story, but Iron Fist is, for the most part, only fighting one or two at a time, and so it kind of makes sense that they're able to kind of stretch this for an entire issue, and at no point did I feel like, okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We get it, the X-Men are fighting Iron Fist. I felt like it was keeping me entertained throughout the entire issue. You might say, we didn't really get to see Storm fighting Iron Fist. That was toward the end of the fight. Storm used some wind to direct Iron Fist into the arms of Colossus, and Iron Fist even says, I can't fight that. She's way too powerful for me. And I agree. All these other characters, Iron Fist could hold his own, but with Storm, if this had happened earlier in the issue, then this would have been a much shorter issue. There's no way that he could have fought Storm for any length of time. So anyway, that's about it for this issue. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Let's consider this issue examined.